Welcome to the setup and configuration for the AT VKP-8E. In this video, we will look at configuring with the Atlona Cloud. For the setup, we have our VKP-8E on the network. The AT VKP-8E has two modes of configuration, local and IoT, or the Internet of Things. No matter which mode is used to set up the AT VKP-8E, the computer doing the configuration must be connected to the internet. You can access the cloud via the QR code displayed on the keypad and set up via your phone or tablet. Or you can simply put in the IP address. If you have never logged into Atlona Cloud, you will need to sign in with an account. In the upper right corner, select the Sign In button. A pop-up will appear to allow you to set up your Atlona Cloud account in one of three ways. You can use an existing Google account, use an existing Microsoft account, or you can use an email such as your business email. If you want to use an email account without going through Google or Microsoft, select the Sign In with Email, and on the lower left corner, you will see the Create Account button. Once you have signed in, it will ask you to register your VKP. This assigns this asset to your account. Create or select an existing folder for your VKP so that you can set up your project and organize your assets. You have an option to choose a predefined template when you first register. You can skip this, but in our video, we are going to select the AT-OME MS52W with display control. Now you can see the configuration template. It's set up for simple switching and audio control. The one thing we need to do is add our display model and make sure that it's part of the room on and room off macros. At the bottom, you will see the Devices tab. You can see that we have the OME MS52W, but we need to add our LG display. Select the Add Device button at the top of the screen. You can see all of the drivers available, and this is the same driver list that is part of our Velocity control system. You can filter the equipment by IP RS-232 or infrared IR. I'm going to select the category Displays, then the manufacturer LG and the LG Display V2. We are connected to an MS52W that has two outputs, so I'm going to select two from the drop-down menu. Now, in this tab, I can set the names of the displays so that I have a better idea of which is which. Select the pencil and edit the device. First, let's change the alias for the left display. Next, I will use the drop-down and change the control type to TCP and add the IP address for my display. My keypad is currently not on location, but I want to make sure that I have everything set up in my system. I'm going to quickly set the IP address of my right display and my MS52W. We will be logging into a room rack to test the system in a moment, but for now, let's apply the changes to the VKP. The next item I want to check is the Macros tab. Here, you can see the system macros that were set up in the predefined template. Let's edit our room power off and room power on macros to turn on and off our displays. Note that the room power off has 4 commands. Select the pencil and edit this macro. Scroll to the bottom of the macro to add a new command. Select the plus sign in the lower left corner. Here, I will select the left display device. Next, select the drop-down for the command Power Off. The three buttons in the top right of the command allow you to delete, copy, or move up the command. If I were higher in the macro, it would also allow me to move it down as well. Remember, the velocity macros run in a sequence, so if you would like to send the power off to the displays earlier in the macro, you can. For this setup, I'm going to move the left display to the top, and I'm going to turn off the ATOME mtrigger CEC command because I want to control the left display with the TCP directly and not using CEC. When you delete a command, it will confirm your choice. Scroll to the bottom and now save the macro. Notice that the number of commands is the same because I added the power for TCP, but I did delete the CEC command. Let's do the same for the left display power on. Now, let's take a look at the Variables tab. Here are the variables for my MS52W. Other Atlona devices will show up here with their variables that are built into the velocity control drivers. What if you want to add a variable? Let's see if our command was sent to our left display. Select the Add Variable button. Let's name it Left Display Power State. If you want a default state, then you can just add it here, but I'm going to leave it blank for now. The final tab is the System, and for the keypad, the only system variable that is tracked is the current page ID. This brings up the ability that we have to add page flips. Under the Configure tab, you can go to the upper right corner, select the page 1, and then Add Page. Now you can see the second page will appear. You should always add your back button right away. I'm going to add mine in the upper left corner. To change the button, select the pencil. Here, you can see all of the things that I can do with the button. The label is the text of the button, and we'll call it Back. If I want the light to turn on, I can select it here. I can also use the Behavior button. The behaviors are similar to the velocity control system conditionals. Now, let's add an icon for the back button. And just like our velocity control system, we can use the macro command for a single command or for multiple commands. Here, I'm going to select the keypad device and navigate back to the first page. From here, I'm going to select Drop Down, select page 1. Save the macro and save the button. Back on our page 1, I'm going to add the page flip to page 2. Here, I want to add the command when I select the device for the display port. You can add the page flip directly to the button. Select the pencil and then select macro. Now you can see the button macro that has been created in our predefined templates. The first command turns on the system if it is already off. The second selects the MS52 to go to the display port. So let's add the navigation below, and just like we did with our room power macro, select the plus sign, select Navigate Page, and Page 2. Make sure to save before leaving the page. Save the button. Next, let's look at the three buttons that are at the top of the keypad. Here, I can turn on or off the system. And I can select the icon that looks like more configuration elements for this keypad. The first tab is the General. Here, I can change the name of the keypad. You may want to give this a room name so you can find it in your asset list. I can change the page color from white to black, and this will change the icons and labels to white. Set the time zone, so if you add a clock to your keypad, you can make sure it's in the right time zone. I'm in the Central Time Zone. If you want to give the users feedback, you can select the flash LEDs on press. This is a momentary button that will flash to let the user know that the button was selected. If you select Save, this will close the pop-up, but I want to finish with the other tabs. Next is the Audio tab. This selects where you're going to control the audio for the room. It will also set up the LEDs at the bottom of the keypad that shows the volume level. The Message tab allows you to set the information along the top of the keypad. You can set the message to be the room number, or you can select it to be the clock. Finally, the lock allows you to lock out the keypad if there's no activity. The passcode can only use the numbers 1 through 8 because those are the only buttons we have available. Before we go set up our VKP in our room, let's take a look at the Settings tab at the bottom. Under the System tab, you can change the template, export the configuration file, or import it from another room. Under Advanced, you can reboot the keypad, check the system information, as well as reset the configuration, factory reset the keypad, or unregister it from your account. You can also check the firmware and update the firmware from this setup. The next tab is Snapshots. This shows the snapshots that you've taken for the same configuration file. This is a backup of your configuration file that is stored in the cloud. Let's save a snapshot. You will want to also name these snapshots so you can keep track of your changes. I'm going to call this Displays Added to Room Macro. You can download this or you can send it to the keypad if you want to go back to a previous snapshot. The Networking tab allows you to set the IP address and even turn off the internet access for the keypad if needed. You just need to select the green circle and change it to disabled. The next tab is Logs, and this allows you to view the logs on a running system. The last tab is the Access tab. You can invite people to the keypad configuration as a co-owner, editor, or viewer. Depending on the role, it can limit the access to the VKP and the configuration file. I'm going to use a different Gmail account, and you can see that you must either have an account or create an account in order to access the invitation. Once accepted, it will show up in your account under Access. If you wish to remove someone's access, select this button. We can also check our system by pressing the power. You can see that the variables change. Now that my keypad is set up, I will apply my configurations. You will need to do this anytime you make a change within the configuration file. I can also create a snapshot of the final settings. In the next series of videos, we're going to look at other ways to connect to the VKP-8E.